Mel Gibson speaks for the first time. To this day, no one can explain it. What if one of the most powerful Christian films ever made was never just a film? The Passion of Christ broke limits no Christian film ever had. But what many people don't know is that behind the scenes, this film was far from normal. Something very disturbing happened on that set, something none of us were ever supposed to know. There were whispers of a strange presence, haunting coincidences, and unnatural events that still haunt the people who worked on that set to this very day. Why did Mel Gibson insist on making a movie every studio in Hollywood refused to touch? Keep watching, because this is what happens when one man decides to cross boundaries men were never meant to. Before a single frame was filmed, before the bloodied robes, and before the Passion of the Christ became a cultural phenomenon, there was one man, Mel Gibson. This is the story of a film that transcended cinema, becoming a spiritual battleground for those involved. A vision born in crisis. In the late 1990s, Mel Gibson was at the peak of his career, an Oscar-winning director and global superstar with the freedom to choose his projects. Yet, beneath the surface, he was grappling with profound personal struggles, addiction, depression, and a growing sense of emptiness. At his lowest point, Gibson reconnected with his Catholic faith in a visceral, almost obsessive way. He described hitting his knees in desperation, praying for guidance, and immersing himself in the Gospels. This spiritual awakening sparked the idea for The Passion of the Christ, a film focused on the final 12 hours of Jesus Christ's life, portrayed with unflinching realism. Gibson's vision was uncompromising. He wanted to depict the crucifixion as it happened, without Hollywood gloss, raw, brutal, and authentic. He dove into scripture, studied the Stations of the Cross, and consulted historical and mystic texts, including the visions of Anne Catherine Emmerich. The film would be shot in Aramaic, Latin, and Hebrew, with subtitles, to immerse audiences in the ancient world. There would be no English, no modernisms, and no softening of the story's intensity. This commitment to authenticity, however, made the project a hard sell in Hollywood. When Gibson pitched the idea to studios, he faced unanimous rejection. Executives saw no commercial appeal in a subtitled, R-rated film about Jesus' death, devoid of big-name stars or a mainstream hook. Undeterred, Gibson made a bold decision. He would fund the $30 million production and an additional $15 million for marketing entirely out of his own pocket. This was a massive financial risk. If the film flopped, it could ruin him. But for Gibson, it wasn't about profit. It was a divine mission. A radical approach to casting and filming. Gibson's vision extended to the film's casting and production. He rejected A-list actors, believing their fame would distract from the story. Instead, he sought unknowns who could embody the characters authentically. Jim Caviezel, a devout Catholic with supporting roles in films like The Thin Red Line, was cast as Jesus. Gibson warned Caviezel that the role could end his career, saying, "You'll never work in this town again." Caviezel's response was resolute: "We all have to embrace our crosses." His commitment mirrored Gibson's, setting the tone for a production unlike any other. The film was shot in Matera, Italy, a rugged, ancient town carved into rock, chosen for its biblical authenticity. The set, including a full-scale Golgotha, was built to feel timeless, with no digital shortcuts. Filming conditions were grueling. Freezing temperatures, high winds, and unpredictable storms tested the cast and crew. Yet, from the start, an eerie atmosphere enveloped the set. Actors and crew reported moments of reverence, unexplained emotions, and a palpable sense of a spiritual presence. Unnatural events on set. As filming began, strange occurrences multiplied. During a crucifixion scene, Jim Caviezel was struck by lightning while on the cross, a jolt that left him with a bitten tongue and cheek, later requiring heart surgeries. Astonishingly, lightning struck again, hitting assistant director Jan Michelini, his second strike on the same set. crew members whispered about a strange presence, with some experiencing dizziness, nausea, or sudden tears during intense scenes like the scourging or crucifixion. Even Gibson, known for his focus, was seen praying or crying off-set. The weather in Matera became inexplicably erratic. Clear mornings turned to blackened skies, sandstorms erupted without warning, and powerful gusts toppled equipment. These disruptions felt less like natural phenomena and more like warnings to those on set. Caviezel's physical toll was particularly harrowing. During the scourging scene, a whip accidentally tore a 14-inch scar into his back. Carrying the heavy cross, he dislocated his shoulder, and his screams in the final cut were often real. Hypothermia set in during the cold crucifixion shoots, and some of his bruises were indistinguishable from makeup. The coincidences were uncanny. Caviezel, whose initials are JC, was 33 during filming, the same age as Jesus at his crucifixion. Crew members reported nightmares, fevers, and sleeplessness, particularly after key scenes. Luca Lionello, an atheist who played Judas, converted to Christianity after filming. Others, from extras to technicians, spoke of dreams, visions, or overwhelming emotions. Some crew members began studying the Bible during breaks, and a few even sought baptism. For many, the set felt like a sacred space, charged with a spiritual intensity that defied explanation. A cultural phenomenon and controversy. When The Passion of the Christ premiered on February 25, 2004, it defied all expectations. Gibson bypassed traditional Hollywood marketing, relying instead on grassroots support from churches. Pastors screened early cuts, and sermons were built around the release. Church groups booked entire theaters, turning screenings into spiritual events. The film opened on Ash Wednesday, grossing $23.5 million on its first day and $83.8 million over its opening weekend, a record for a February debut. By the end of its run, it had earned $370 million in the US and $611 million worldwide, becoming the highest-grossing R-rated film at the time. The success was monumental, but so was the controversy. Jewish organizations, including the Anti-Defamation League, accused the film of perpetuating anti-Semitic tropes by emphasizing Jewish responsibility for Jesus' death. Gibson insisted he was faithfully depicting scripture, but debates raged across talk shows and religious circles. Critics also slammed the film's graphic violence, particularly the nearly 10-minute scourging scene, with some audiences fainting or leaving theaters in distress. Roger Ebert called it the most violent film I have ever seen, while others accused Gibson of reveling in the brutality. Despite the backlash, the film resonated deeply with Christian audiences. Viewers reported spiritual transformations, with some claiming physical or emotional healings. Churches used the film as an evangelistic tool, and it sparked a wave of faith-based films like God's Not Dead and War Room. The Passion proved there was a massive Christian audience Hollywood had overlooked, reshaping the industry. The aftermath, a lasting impact. The film's impact on its creators was profound and lasting. Jim Caviezel's career stalled post-release. Despite his prior success, roles dried up, and some speculated he was blacklisted for his association with the film and his outspoken faith. Yet, Caviezel expressed no regrets, describing the role as a calling. He leaned into Christian-themed projects and spoke at religious conferences, often emotional about the experience. Mel Gibson's life took a darker turn. After the film's success, his 2006 DUI arrest and anti-Semitic rant shattered his reputation. Further scandals, leaked calls, and accusations of misconduct followed, painting him as a fallen star. Those close to him, however, believe the film changed him. Gibson has hinted that the backlash was more than professional, suggesting a spiritual consequence for tackling such a project. He remains steadfast, calling The Passion the work of his life and quietly working on a sequel. Many crew members were transformed. Some found faith, others retreated from the spotlight, and a few refused to discuss the experience, citing its overwhelming intensity. Journalists encountered a wall of silence when probing insiders, as if the set's events were too sacred or unsettling to revisit. For those involved, The Passion was more than a film. It was a spiritual crucible, leaving invisible scars and profound changes. A legacy beyond the screen. The Passion of the Christ wasn't just a cinematic achievement, it was a phenomenon that blurred the line between art and the divine. For Gibson, Caviezel, and the crew, it was a journey marked by sacrifice, supernatural occurrences, and personal transformation. The film's success defied Hollywood's rules, but its true legacy lies in the lives it touched, both on set and in theaters. Was it just a movie or something more? The silence of those who lived it suggests a story that transcends explanation, a cross they continue to carry. Was The Passion of the Christ just a movie or something far greater? What do you think about the eerie events on set and the sacrifices made by Mel Gibson and Jim Caviezel? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story gripped you, smash that like button, subscribe for more jaw-dropping insights, and check out the next video on your screen. You won't want to miss it.